this afternoon. To the members of our illustrious D44 leadership team, distinguished Toastmasters, welcome to Pathways, your path to success. First of all, I would love to give our Madam PQD, Kari Evans, a few moments to say a few words to us, distinguished Toastmaster Kari Evans.
Thank you and good afternoon. I am so excited to see all of you here, eager to learn more about the Pathways, the Toastmasters education program, and how it can help you move forward on your path to success. You are in for a treat with our host, Doug Myers, our Pathways team chair. And so sit tight, put on your listening ears, all that active listening you're going to learn. Take notes, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you for coming, and back to you, Stephanie.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Kari Evans. So today, distinguished Toastmaster Doug Myers will lead us and will help us get unstuck and help us move forward in our path to success. We have a few ground rules to guide us in this learning today. First, this is lunch and learn, so feel free to eat your lunch. Next, there will be time to engage with our speaker. You can raise your virtual hand to be called upon, or you can pose a question to the chat. However, we ask that you remain on mute until you are addressing our speaker. Toastmaster Myers will not be speaking for the entire hour, and we will have some time to answer questions at the end. Finally, your feedback is very important to us. And near the end of the workshop, I will drop an evaluation link into the chat. Please take just a few minutes to fill out that evaluation so we can have some great feedback and moving forward. And now I'm so excited to introduce our speaker. Distinguished Toastmasters Doug Myers has been a Toastmaster since 2017. Doug has truly enjoyed the experience of speaking and presenting within the challenging yet doable Pathways learning experience. As a Pathways champion, under the tutelage of Fran Ellis CPA, Toastmaster Myers has enjoyed mentoring both clubs and members in navigating Pathways. He is a member of St. Leo the Great Toastmasters, Chat Toastmasters, and Beyond the World of Toastmasters Advanced Clubs. Distinguished Toastmaster Myers has 2 grandchildren, and his family knows him as Daddy-O. I love that, Daddy-O, an Irish Gaelic term for grandfather. Toastmaster Myers is a U.S. lacrosse certified level 2 coach, an Alpharetta Community Emergency Response Team member, a credentialed shotgun instructor, has the CFPA designation, and is a registered investment advisor. And Doug is also a senior vice president with FinTrust Capital Advisors. So without further hesitation, let us welcome our speaker and facilitator for the day, distinguished Toastmasters Doug Myers.
Stephanie, thank you very, very much. I'm so excited to be here today with everyone. As a Pathways champion, it takes a lot of enthusiasm to extol the virtues of Pathways. A lot of people find it a little wonky at times. If you dig in, there's a lot you can get out of it. Pathways represents the 100 years of Toastmasters professional experience and learning, and they packaged it into what we call a DUIC, a dynamic user interactive chalkboard. It uses the continuing education platform that's called Basecamp. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today, is Pathways is actually delivered to you via Basecamp. Then it's proctored by your Basecamp managers, and then the records go into Toastmasters via Leadership Central. And I'll be talking about those 4 steps and about navigating Pathways and what you can get out of Pathways. I suspect everyone knows that Pathways consists of 11 different subpaths. Most of those paths are very similar on level 1 and level 2. A quick question, can everyone see the shared screen? All right, everyone can, fantastic. I'll be taking everyone through various little speed bumps that are built into Pathways, showing you how to overcome those and how to get the most you can out of the Pathways learning experience. The most important thing is, I think everyone here is going to be at some level of expertise. Now, if we have any new members, any folks who haven't signed up for Pathways, please stay to the very end. I'll work with y'all one-on-one. I'll work with you on a group, however you would like to do it, to show you some of the other little foibles and characteristics that are inside of Pathways. If you have any questions, please ask them. There's no such thing as a dumb question, except for the one you don't ask. So any questions, do not be afraid. This is a judgment-free zone. I'll start off with everyone logged in. If there's anybody that's having problems logging in, it's easy enough. Once you're logged in, the easiest way to navigate is clicking on your name. And you'll notice that you're on the Toastmasters.org website. That's up in your Uniform Resource Locator bar. That actually comes into play later on, and I'll explain that once we get to that point. This landing page within Toastmasters allows you to pretty much navigate what you need to get done. This left-hand side where you see my cursor floating around, this is where you would log in for Basecamp. If you're one of the 3 officers, the president, the vice president of education, and the secretary, this is also where you log in as a Basecamp manager. I'll start off just logging in Basecamp, and I'll show you mine as a matter of an example. From this particular page, you can navigate everything inside of Basecamp. Now, I will point out here that we've actually left Toastmasters. It opened up that pop-up, and we're now in toastmasters.csod.com. When you're no longer in the .org, you're in Cornerstone On Demand's Basecamp, and that's how Pathways is being delivered to you. Here you can click on your Paths and Learning Education transcripts. Here are all of the speech evaluations. This is something a lot of folks don't know about. Every speech evaluation is right here. Almost every club that I visit and almost every club that I've been in has a challenge with the speakers getting ready to give their speech, but the evaluator doesn't have the speech evaluation. It's right here inside of Basecamp, ready to go. Additional tutorials and resources. You can also look at your effective coaching and your other Pathways that you already logged in down here. Here are your badges. I'll click on that real quick. That brings up what you've accomplished so far, the levels that you've achieved, and the Pathways that you've completed. These particular badges are digital credentials that you can use to submit to whoever you're employed with, whatever charitable organization that you're with, whatever religious organization you're with. It is a valid micro-credential, a certificate of proficiency inside that particular area that you can declare yourself expert on. And it's a really, really neat thing, especially to come out of this particular late unpleasantness with COVID that we're experiencing. You get to say, here's what I did during COVID. I continued myself, I bettered myself, I improved myself, etc. Here, I'm just moving back to the particular page. I'll click on the Paths and Learning and Experience. So here are my two pathways that I'm enrolled in. Effective coaching is the one that I'm furthermost along in. Everyone knows how to open the curriculum. I assume if you don't, it brings up this particular curriculum, and you can navigate between all 5 of the levels. October 2019, they opened all the levels for everybody. So you don't have to do everything lockstep as before. For example, in level 4, in the electives, frequently you have things that you need to do in your particular employment environment. Here you can lead a question and answer session. You can work on public relations strategies or a projects session and evaluation. And these are the things that you can do in your corporate or organizational environment, and you don't necessarily have to do them in order. You don't have to do them in lockstep. Now, the skills imparted by Pathways are sequential and they do build upon each other, but it's important to know you don't have to do them in order. You have to complete all 5 levels, however, before this path completion opens up. Now, the path completion is a final 8 to 10 minute speech talking about your journey through Pathways and encouraging and exhorting others to continue on their particular pathway, because the big goal here at District 44 is to get people knocking out speeches, getting the completing levels, completing projects, getting them fully engaged in what Toastmasters has to offer. Once you've completed all 5 levels, this path completion is a speech that you'll do. And this doesn't unlock until you've completed all 5 levels. And that's the job of the Vice President of Education, the President, and the Secretary to make sure that you've done that. As you complete these levels, a little pop-up dialog bar appears right here. It's sort of tough. You got to click on it 3 times because it'll appear first launch, and then it'll tell you to activate, and then you have to mark it complete. So that's something to know yourself and to tell all your other club members. Once you've completed a level, you've got to click on the level 4 completion dialog boxes 3 times. And what happens after you do that, I'm going to jump into the Basecamp Manager. And I'll explain, it's important that I go to Basecamp Manager because I want everyone to know that it's a 4-step process. As you go through your levels and as you complete different levels in the pathways and finally complete a pathway, those 3 officers, the President, the Vice President of Education, and the Secretary will get a pending request. And that will appear right here. I don't have anyone in my particular club who's submitted a request, but there'll be a green check mark or red X. Any 3 of those officers can click that particular completion, and it anchors your completion inside of Basecamp. It creates the record that you've completed a particular level, such as I've completed level 1 and level 2. Once I completed level 3, this would pop up. It would go to Vice President of Education. They would click on that, and I would have that level completed. But here's the most important thing, and this is what I'm trying to emphasize to everybody. Inside of Toastmasters, any of your officers have the job of going to Leadership Central. I'm waiting for the website to spool up here. Club Central, and submit the education award. Well, if I learned to type it right, I would be doing much better. Leadership Central, Club Central. I'll pick out that particular club, submit the education awards. You pick anybody, whoever submitted the education award. For example, our fellow Anderson Kangota just recently completed his level 1. Here's where we would click on level 2. I'll take a moment to explain why it's this particular 4-step process. Basecamp and Basecamp Manager is a database kept at Cornerstone On Demand. When you submit this education award inside of the Toastmasters website, that's what updates their records there. Toastmasters can look into Basecamp and Basecamp Manager but the data does not automatically cascade over. I don't have numbers. I have nothing more than my mere conjecture that a lot of base camp levels are being approved, but the awards aren't being submitted at the Toastmasters website level. That's the job of the Vice President of Education. I suggest quarterly, at least twice a year, go through and look at what records you have in Base Camp Manager and make sure that your members have their requisite rewards at the Toastmasters website. Once you've completed level 2, something pops up. You have the ability to do a sub-award, and it's a hidden award. It's called the Pathways Mentor Program. Now, Pathways doesn't show this. It's not anything that anybody can see, but it's something that we at the district are really excited about. It's about a 6-month program, and you get an additional credential showing that you have completed a mentorship program. And that, again, is something concrete that you can take with you to any organization that you work on. You get to say that you have mentored somebody in a formal, structured environment, and you got them from point A to point B to where they wanted to go. One of the reasons why we're very excited about it is this builds this accountability between the newer members and the older, more experienced members, and it creates that one-on-one relationship, keeping everybody engaged, everybody participating, everyone progressing. I'm going to stick this in the chat. This is another particular district's little biograph on the Pathways Mentor Program. Let's see if I can get that into the chat right now. Well, I can't. I'll put it in later once I stop sharing. At this stage, I'm going to go to the District 44 website. If everyone clicks on club members, you can drop down to Pathways Journey. And this is really a powerful tool that Fran Ellis and her Pathways champions from last year created. I suggest everyone go there to this particular location, and it has the icebreaker. You can practice the icebreaker even if you haven't even signed up for a pathway, although we really want you to sign up for a pathway as soon as you can. Here you can look at the Pathways Mentor Program, but here's an extraordinary powerful tool. Here are all 11 of the pathways. You can click on those badges and it takes you to this, a summary of what your particular pathway includes, and it has a date, an evaluator signature, and it has your Vice President of Education signature if you want to do it the old-fashioned way. But this lays it out for you in a 2-page format for every single pathway. It gives you that clear, concise map. This is nothing short of brilliant. Kudos to the Pathways champions, folks that did this before. If you scroll down to the particular bottom of this, of your Pathways journey, here are 7 resources for everybody. You can watch a video of the Pathways Champions workshop given at the last TLI. Here is a Pathways potpourri slide deck. It has all the slides from this particular video that you can scroll through at any time you want. It has the basics, and it starts as the very basics, Part A and Part B. For every base camp manager, president, vice president of education, and again, the secretary, here's your base camp manager as taught by us. And finally, here's a Pathways tracking vertical spreadsheet. Fran's an accountant. She loves spreadsheets. And this is a really powerful tool for the officers to keep track of where all of the members are in terms of their pathway. And I'll show you that a particular tool, once you're in the Pathways Base Camp Manager, how this particular spreadsheet really dovetails for all the officers. I'm going to click go to the base camp, and I'm going to go to the Base Camp Manager. click on membership progress. Now, if you're not a Basecamp manager, this is going to seem a little wonky, but it's important that you understand what those officers are dealing with and what they're looking at and how they see your particular progress in a pathway. It comes up here in a second. It's actually spooling up the Basecamp manager database, which again is different than the Toastmaster database. It sometimes takes a second, so we'll give it a moment. While it's doing this, I'll interject, it came up. If everyone can see my particular icon here, this is your Basecamp manager profile. So Basecamp manager has one profile. 3 people can sign in, but one profile. But when you're in Basecamp, you have your own profile. And when you're in Toastmasters, the main site, you have a profile there. For all the Basecamp managers, and hopefully everyone here who's not a Basecamp manager, you'll eventually become a Basecamp manager. Here's how you track your progress. If everyone sees that little magic drop-down box that appears when you hover your cursor over it, this is the drop-down where you can see the particular details of where all of your club members are and how they're progressing. So here's part of the secret. You can see where people have completed things and where people are still in progress in certain levels inside their pathways. I'll close this particular screen out. You can export this to Excel. And this exports to the Excel spreadsheet that Fran has created for everyone to use. An enormously powerful tool. You can see additional reports should you want by clicking on these different things. You can see that this is normally a continuing education environment for both government and for corporations because it says track employees. We're not employees, we're volunteers and members. But here you can take a look at how your club member is progressing in different digital formats. And again, it produces different ways of looking at their data. So this is the Basecamp manager tools. But again, all club members should know how this looks to your particular Basecamp managers. Again, the president, vice president of education. Once you're inside Basecamp, the most important thing to understand is how to navigate the particular website. And I'm going to bring up back here to the district incentives, to our pathways journey, is how to navigate and understand that every time you need to do something, there's the final submit dialog box. Now, take you through the icebreaker. This is something you want to show each and every one of your newest members. It's a foible, a characteristic of how the icebreaker works, but I've actually seen where it actually trips people up and it makes them angry. Down at the bottom of the screen, Toastmasters likes having a lot of things at the bottom of the screen. You can navigate around to where you would like to go. Every particular project has an assess your skills before, and this is where you would pick where you stand as you're going into the particular project. So I'll give myself 2s. I still need to know where I am in terms of communication and leadership goals, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the magic submit button. It appears. You'll get this splash screen, and then you continue navigating through the particular path, through the project, using these right and left chevrons. And as you go through, you'll do the work, you read everything, you watch the videos. And this is that dynamic user interface or interactive chalkboard. It's laid out in a different way, each particular screen, to get you engaged into the content. So it doesn't present it in a static format. It's presenting it to you differently each and every time. And that's why you navigate through and you're required to do different things inside of the particular project. But I'll jump here to the assess your skills after. I've improved, so I'm giving myself 4s for each of the 6 criteria. My club's very proud of me. I've given my icebreaker speech. I'm very proud of myself. here's that submit button. But as you've gone through the project, you've been conditioned to be hitting those right and left arrows. If you hit that right arrow before you hit the submit button, you get this congratulations screen. You've completed the project, but you actually haven't. You've got to hit that submit button first, because that's what creates the completion record inside of Basecamp, so the Basecamp managers can see what you've done. Hit the submit button, get the feedback screen showing improvement, then you hit the right arrow and you get that same congratulations screen. So that's imperative that we convey to all of our members. It's inside every particular project. You've got to hit that submit button. Finally, I'm going to put on here the district incentives program. And Kari and the folks at the district have gone to a lot of effort to put in incentives for everyone to complete pathways and do additional things. Down here at the bottom of the Paths to Excellence, if your club does additional pathways, if they get things done, you choose a path, you win a Pathways pin. You give ice breakers, you get a Pathways t-shirt, and you get to pay it forward, and you can go the extra mile, and you get a Toastmasters swag bag. So make sure that everyone goes to Toastmasters, d44toastmasters.org/district-incentives, and there's an enormous incentives program for everyone to get fully engaged in pathways. At this point, we have our moderator. If there's anybody that has any questions, it's important you ask those questions, put it in the chat, and I'll address it, because if you have a question, another 10 to 15 people have the exact same question.
Yes, Doug, we do have a few questions already.
Excellent.
The first question is, seems like there are a lot of issues with the user experience on this website. It's not an intuitive experience to try to navigate through Basecamp. When will Toastmasters be improving these issues, like you have to submit 3 times or it doesn't count?
Correct. They know they have the particular problem with that. They know it's a tad, and I use the word wonky. When I showed you here under reports, and it should come up here in a second. Now I may have to log back in as standard reports. Here's where it says track employees. So this Basecamp manager was created for large organizations to track their continuing education in whatever they were working on. It's set up that way to deal with diverse people, diverse languages, coming from all sorts of different backgrounds, and to prevent people from doing what a lot of folks do, and that's cruising through the speed bumps. When they initially came out with Pathways, you were allowed to go through, click on complete, and you could say that you completed your pathway before you gave any speeches. They realized that was a problem. That's why they added that particular path. And most recently, they've added 2 new speeches to the level 1 and took a speech away. So anybody that signs up for a new pathway, you actually get 2 new speeches. But here's what's really neat. It makes it easier. The 2 new speeches that they've added are more foundational and easier to achieve and to give, where the researching and presenting speech has been moved down to a higher level, levels 2 or 3, depending on the particular pathway. It's actually easier to get through level 1 now. They know they have to improve it. They're going to improve it, but that's currently the way the system is designed. So as you're working on your pathway, you get your credits inside of Basecamp. When you complete levels, Basecamp Manager, and then from Basecamp Manager to Leadership Central. But knowing where these foibles are That's the easiest way to get through those particular speed bumps.
Thank you, Doug. I have a question,
Sure.
and I'm really not sure how to answer this because this is actually new information for me. Someone wants information on, it says when we use the D44 website and when do we use the Toastmaster site? Is there anything we log in or complete on D44? Or is it just another source of information?
It's not just another source of information. The D44 website is for District 44, which is north and west of I-85, and it has enormous amounts of resources built into it. As I showed you before, under the Pathways journey, it is able to summarize and concretize what you need to do to get going and stay on your particular Pathways journey.
I think
If
he
you're
means when
clo-
you went into the
Right.
the D44 website and you went through the icebreaker information.
Correct. Okay.
I guess
So
they're asking, do you log in everything on Toastmasters International, or is there a place on the D44 website to complete the project?
the D44 website will take you to, in theory, back to Toastmasters. So your initial starting page is toastmasters.org. That's where you can go from there to Basecamp or Basecamp Manager. The D44 website, you can get to other particular areas and it will take you back to toastmasters.org, but it's toastmasters.org and Basecamp where you actually are doing your speechcraft, you're doing your projects, et cetera, et cetera. The District 44 website has enormous resources for our local events. They have an extensive library of and tools and other resources. They have the digital speechcraft. They have the accredited speaker program, the Speakers Bureau, all right there at your fingertips. And if your club uses Free Toast Host or Easy Speak, that's a fourth website that you need as a member to become familiar with, because that's usually where your agendas are. A lot of corporate clubs, they have their agenda system inside their corporate environment, but the community clubs tend to use their club Free Toast Host website. So that's a total of 4 websites that you sort of need to be familiar with: toastmasters.org, the Basecamp website, D44toastmasters.org, and then finally your club agenda website.
Thank you, Doug. Another question. Someone commented that initially when they were introduced to Pathways, they mentioned you can earn credit on your own and it will be self-sufficient. So this person is asking, do you have to do your presentations via the club, or can you do your projects independently?
You can do your projects independently with the approval of your Vice President of Education. And there are certain things in each project that have to be evaluated by another Toastmaster. I'll give an example that I showed earlier of the question and answer session in level 4. You can do that Q&A session in your corporate or organizational environment. Frequently, you have to do that. You're introducing a new product or a new particular tool or a new particular situation at your office, and it's going to have a Q&A answer session. You'll be the moderator. You'll need one person who's inside of Toastmasters, and it doesn't even have to be from your club, but that's who you'll give the evaluation on your work. But everybody else can be inside your particular organization. The Pathways Mentor Program, you actually do outside of Toastmasters usually, but you can do it inside, where you're mentoring somebody one-on-one for 6 months, and you'll get an evaluation 360 from that person. That person does not have to be a Toastmaster. It can be somebody, again, in your organizational environment that you're trying to help and mentor, and they will give you your first eval 360, and that helps you familiarize yourself, because everyone in this room, I hope, is going to work toward their Distinguished Toastmaster. Does that answer the question?
I think it does. I think that's what the,
I'm going to put the
Visible.
Pathways Journey website here into the chat. And then I'm going to put the district incentives into the chat. And then finally, the nice folks out of the District 4 Toastmasters, this is their Pathways Mentor Program summary. Again, your Pathways Mentor Program becomes available to you after you've achieved level 2. When you finish it, it sort of goes away. You'll get the digital badge, but you can't really access it again. And you only get one chance, not necessarily one chance, but you only do it one time. So it's only valid for one particular sequence. So those are the 3 particular websites that I highlighted earlier that I put into the chat for everybody.
thank you. Right now, I believe that concludes the questions posted in the chat. Does anyone want to raise their hand and ask a question? Virtual hand? Don't see anything, Doug.
Well, please, any particular question. At this stage, we can go into some more granular work if you have specific problems. If you're having a specific problem with a pathway, then everybody else is too.
Doug, I think some people came in a little late, and there's a question of if you can go back through completing a pathway in Basecamp.
Sure thing. Once you've logged into the Toastmasters.org website, the easiest way to navigate is clicking your name. Here we'll go into Basecamp. So this particular left-hand blue box, Basecamp. You know you're in Basecamp, obviously, from seeing this screen, and it says csod.com. That's that different database that I was talking about. You can access your Paths and Learning by clicking this or going straight down here to Paths and Learning and opening the curriculum. I'm still in effective coaching. Here are your 4 levels. As you complete the icebreaker, your evaluation and feedback, and then there'll be 2 other speeches. If you've just signed up for a pathway, if you paid for your pathway before the beginning of October, you'll just have this research and presenting, but it looks similar. This will be grayed out. There won't be any ability to view the certificate or launch or anything like that. I'll click on level 3 that I've not completed. You can see that's particularly grayed out. As you complete your levels, you'll activate them, you'll launch them. You'll navigate through them. For example, I'll launch my Reaching Consensus. That's a speech I have to give. And there are 2 ways to navigate through each particular project inside of Pathways. The right and left chevrons take you through the different things that you need to do. Early on, you can see your evaluation resource that someone will need to evaluate on. You can print the entire project. That brings up this particular screen that summarizes what your project entails. Well, actually, this is the full paper project. You can print this out. You can click on this drop-down box here at the bottom, and you can jump to different sections around. So it allows you to go to the end of your particular project if you need to. Here's the project checklist. That's under completing your assignment. And this is what gives you the summary of your particular project is. For here, I would meet with my vice president to organize a team to complete the assignment. I do these different things. Here are my additional notes. Here's my project checklist. Here's what I need to do this particular project. But the two ways to navigate around inside of a particular project are the right and left chevrons, or in this particular drop-down area. Now, pathways, I just saw a particular question. Pathways is the culmination of 100 years of Toastmasters learning experience. I'm answering Vanessa Lintz's question. Do you mind explaining what Pathways is and the significance? They have significant new members that are on this particular call. So the Pathways represents the 11 herbs and spices, the secrets of being a Toastmaster. It has in it the tool set to make you an excellent speaker, an excellent communicator, an excellent presenter. It's done that way through Basecamp. Basecamp is what delivers the pathway to you. Basecamp Manager, they're the proctors. Those are the three officers that make sure that as members go through their particular pathway and they complete their assignments and their levels, they validate that. And then finally, any of the officers submit those education awards via Leadership Central, Club Central, Submit Education Award.
Thank you, Doug. Kenneth Edward has had his hand raised. Kenneth, will you come off mute and ask your question, please?
Yes, thank you. Currently, we don't have a vice president of education. We lost our vice president of education. Therefore, we have a secretary and we have the president now that have access to Basecamp to do the awards, the completion piece. However, they don't have the training. And unfortunately, they are not here to hear all the wonderful things that you just explained to us. And none of us knew all of the resources that were available on the district website. This is really fascinating. So my question is, we are going to be having meetings to question our members to find out what speeches they have completed. And a lot of them have not completed the applications on the Pathway site. So therefore, they're just hanging out. But my question is, we don't know how to do what you just explained to us. So how do we get in touch with you to get to come to our club and give us a tutorial? Or, you know, talking to just Toastmasters International, they will explain what's on Toastmasters International. They will not talk to us about what's on the district site. So help me understand what I do to get my additional help. Thank you.
I just put my email address into the general chat, 398.2 Toastmaster. Don't put the S in there, Toastmaster. So let me put it in there correctly. When I chose this one from Google, the 398.2 stands for the International Library of Congress Locator Record for Storytelling. So I thought I was being cute, but I made the mistake of putting Toastmaster in the singular, not Toastmasters. So that was a tactical error on my part. You may email me at any time and I will get together with your club. In fact, I owe Cox Automotive a particular session, one-on-one, and help out. Now, it may not necessarily be me. There are a number of Pathways champions who've all been trained on how to do this particular presentation. At the bottom of this website, the D44Toastmasters.org, Pathways Journey. All of these tools are right here. So I would implore your president and your secretary to go just watch this particular video, and they can click on the Basecamp Manager Training Part A and Part B, and that will take them through everything they need to know about being Basecamp managers and picking up the slack where your vice president of education has left. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that's very helpful. Okay, thank you so much.
Any other questions, please don't hesitate to ask anything.
Oh, was I on mute? Did you hear me? I'm sorry,
did.
I might have been on mute. My question was, some of the members want to know where you go into Basecamp to attach your evaluations, please.
Excellent. Basecamp does have a, best way to describe it is a document locker. So once you go to the Basecamp page, when you see this right here under My Documents. So you've got My Feedback where you can request feedback from your co-members and you can send feedback should you want. Here are your badges and then here are My Documents. I'll do a real quick thing here to show you my badge. Here is the badge for the Pathways Mentor Program. It's that little half pathway. It's not available until you complete level 2. Then it becomes available. You can complete it. And then you get to say that you are mentor proficient. My Documents for the document locker. And then here you can search documents that I put a particular file here and this was my mentoring evaluation for the mentor. And at any time you can add the file by clicking it. It takes you to the drag and drop screen. And that's where you can store your evaluations or anything like that. Should you need to get somebody an evaluation or get an evaluation, a blank evaluation for somebody else, again, on the main Basecamp page, speech evaluations, click that, and here is every evaluation that Toastmasters has in all the different levels. They're right here. And I will put this particular link in here.
Can you show us where Toastmasters will go to designate that they have finished a meeting role?
Here, I'm logged in as my Basecamp manager. Excellent. And I'll show you another powerful tool. And this is for the Basecamp managers. After I do this, am I logged in as Basecamp manager? Let's see now. Clicking on your particular icon. Down here, under interests in your summary, and then here's where your counter and your meeting roles go on record. I'm trying to figure out where we put this here in a summary, get additional information. I think give me 1 second here. It's not coming up with this particular editing button, but that's where it goes. And then your vice president of education, they would be able to see that and see, okay, you've been an all-counter, you've been a grammarian, you've been a general evaluator. Your Basecamp manager, yeah, I'm logged in as Basecamp manager, and that's why I can't edit this particular. Here's our club president, your Basecamp manager, either president, vice president of education, or secretary, is then able to go in and they type any name of members in your club and they can bring it up, your particular profile. Oh, don't hit that particular button. My apologies. And see that Anderson has not been a timer, Toastmaster, or topics master yet. But he has been an all-counter, a grammarian, and a speech evaluator. So the Basecamp manager can type anybody's name once they're logged in as Basecamp manager and see their club members' activity. If I log out, let's see if I can do that. You should be able to see how I can. I don't know what's not letting me do that, but I can. click on the gear, click on my account, and that's where you add your particular roles. I'll clear those and say I was last in all counter at my last meeting Monday. Save, and that's how you put it in. So under your particular profile, and you'll notice this particular profile is different than your profile on the Toastmasters.org website. Stephanie, any other questions?
I think we're pretty good. There's one question. Tamika's asking, I'm not sure of your question, so maybe Tamika, you want to ask this one. Any base camp, you said you're asking if any base camp manager can update this page. So I'm not sure your specific question. Can you come off mic so I can make sure your question gets answered, please?
Sure. Thank you, Stephanie. Doug mentioned that the page that you were just referencing, where they can go in and identify if you have done evaluations or what all this page here. And my question is, base camp managers being the president, VP of education, and EP are the three people that can access this information, correct?
They can look at it. I don't think they can modify it. I think only you can modify it.
Okay, great. That's what I did not understand. Thanks for clarifying.
Any more questions? Before you leave, please, I've dropped the link to the evaluation in the chat, please. So please take just a couple of minutes and fill out the evaluation. Again, your feedback is very important to us.
It really is. Again, that's one of the neat things that's embedded inside of Toastmasters. Not only do you become a good speaker, but you become a good evaluator. And evaluation skills, that's what will take you far and wide in your life. The ability to give feedback in a non-combative or non-corrosive way to your coworkers, to your family, to your friends, or to the boss. That will take you far. And that's what evaluation skills are that we learn inside of Toastmasters.
Doug, I have a question, and I want to see if anything's changed because I'm new in Pathways too. So before a Toastmaster can, I believe, complete level 3, do you still have to complete the meeting roles?
Yes.
Or is that checked?
Yes.
Okay.
But it is on the responsibility of the meeting roles of knowing whether the meeting roles have been completed. That onus is on the 3 base camp managers.
Right. I'm just making sure that people understand why it's so important to log in those meeting roles.
Right.
Any other questions? Don't see any hand raised. I don't see any questions.
If anybody wants to schedule a one-on-one session, either myself or one of the other Pathways champions, will be happy to join your meeting and help out any which way I can. Again, I owe one to the Cox Automotive. And we'll have another one of these sessions on the 22nd in the evening.
Okay. Distinguished Toastmaster Myers, we thank you so much for having this very hands-on, candid conversation about Pathways. The program committee, co-chaired by myself and past district director Phyllis Breach, will continue to have these educational moments for all of our members. And we thank you for coming. But before we go, I want to see if Madam PQD has anything else to share. If she doesn't, oh, there she is. Yay. because I wanted
Hi.
you to say something about TLI.
Oh, okay. Absolutely, because I think there are quite a few club officers on here. Club officers, are you here? Stephanie, okay, I see some nods. So yes, I encourage you to mark your calendars because the registration link is coming soon for the Toastmasters Leadership Institute. That is your club officer training. You'll again learn a little bit more about pathways and have opportunities to ask questions. That is happening on Saturday, January 8th at 9 a.m. And we have a special guest speaker that's going to kick us off. And that is the 2021 World Champion of Public Speaking, Verity Price. So she's made it all the way. She started at the her club international speech level, went through the area, the division, the district, those semifinals, the regional final, and she is the world champion of public speaking. And she's going to motivate us and kick us off at the TLI. So mark your calendars, Saturday, January 8th, 9 a.m. And of course, it's club officer training. So you're going to get to learn all kinds of fantastic information about your respective roles and meet other officers and share knowledge and network. Thanks, Stephanie. I think you're muted. You're muted. Oh.
I try to be good, but thank you, Madam PQD. Thank you for coming, everyone, and we will see you next time. Just stay tuned to the district website for future programs and workshops.